Code Vein, the unforgiving endless torture of Dark Souls games, combined with anime and waifu material. Granted, it is quite easier than Dark Souls games, but it was my introduction to Souls-likes, along with Hollow Knight. Its gameplay is fun, it has good music, and the plot, yeah. There are quite a lot of different mechanics in this game that are similar to other Souls-like games. Levels, magic, equipment and weapon types, movement and dodging, and the bosses who chunk your HP and chain you to your death as you slowly lose your hope of beating the boss and progressing through the game. However, there are some slight differences, like companions, how class systems work, and other minute things. I think the game is great, but after playing it once, it is a bit boring to play normally again, and so I thought, how could I torture myself and lose my sanity as I try to beat it with a niche rule set, which I probably shouldn't do on my full playthrough. Other playthroughs may do magic, or in this game, gifts only, level 1, pacifist, pipe only, which is the weapon you start with, and many other challenges. But what could I do differently than that? So I thought, why don't I do some of everything? Why don't I beat Code Vein at level 1, with the starting weapons and equipment, no partners, and default gift only? First, I should explain what that completely means. Level 1 and no partner being obvious, which means I can't use my haze, which is the experience or currency in this game, to level myself up, which would give me a slight increase to all my stats, and the no partner meaning that I cannot use a partner, which forces me to face every enemy or boss by myself, rather than having an AI companion to share the aggro with me. Starting weapons and equipment would mean that I can only use the stuff that I get at the very start of the game, which would be a metal pipe, a concrete block which is used as a hammer, as well as a blood veil, which is similar to the armor in this game. Finally, default gifts, which is the most confusing. System classes in this game are different, being blood codes, which I can switch between at any point, changing my stats and what gifts I have available with some exceptions. Each blood code usually has 4 to 7 gifts, and sometimes a bit more, with most of them being unlocked using haze or other requirements as the game progresses. However, other codes have at least 1 gift available when you first get the code, and some even have 3, and these 1 that are available at the beginning are the only ones I can use throughout the game. Anyone who has played the game probably knows that gifts are pretty strong, and can make certain enemies or bosses a bit easier or manageable. However, I will tell you that most of these default gifts suck. So, we start with character creation, which with any anime game, its character creator has many different options. So, after finding out what type of hellscape we are in, we are greeted by Anime Waifu Girl, and shown that our blood is special and can grow trees. We are then promptly kicked into a shithole, and told to sort it out with our new friend Oliver. But no companions. So, after sending Oliver to the Shadow Realm, we traverse without fail, with like 1 fail throughout the dungeon. This area is pretty easy to traverse at this point. All there really is to do is pick up important items, kill enough enemies to master our gifts, to switch them between blood codes, and to just get to the end. Once we reach the end, Oliver meets us again, but with his eyes red with rage from us sending him to Brazil, we end up going against him. This fight was not too bad. We just need to use Bloodshot on him, smack him for Ica, and well, on the 5th try we got him. This fight really showed how the rest of the run was gonna need to be played. With the little damage the pipe did, maybe around 70 damage to enemies no matter what level the pipe was, and the massive health pool of the bosses, it was not feasible to only use the pipe as my damage source. At the same time, the gifts we have are very low damage or very slow for most of the game. Because of these 2 things, we have to learn the moveset of most bosses very well, to dodge everything as well as try to find the best way to make any of the bosses easier or less luck reliant. For our efforts in defeating Oliver, we were given the Berserker code, whose gift is Blow of Madness, a skill which increases the damage of our next hit. of all Pipe's 70 damage. There are many blood codes whose gifts really do not help much in this run. Anyways, going back to story, we go to Louis' base and pick up a couple of blood codes, Prometheus and Astria, as well as level up our Blood Veil. We then teleport to the ruined city center. We continue running through the map to the next objective, picking up a faraway missile and maybe dying a few times for convenience later in the game. Then we end up at the boss at the Park Ruins, and damn, does this boss suck. The Butterfly of Delirium, RNG and Poison, 2 in 1. Most of the moves are very telegraphed and predictable, having a spin, close range attacks, AoE, and some projectiles which are very easy to dodge or run from. However, she has a dash, which is very inconsistent to dodge from, and whether it has a magic trail behind that poisons you is a 50-50 chance. Oh, and did I mention the poison? Yeah, every hit builds up poison, which lasts for maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and requires 2 heals to make sure you don't die. And with only 5 heals at this point, it makes getting poisoned very punishing if you don't have the items or gifts to cure it. However, during this time I was learning her moves, I was able to find out a few things which no one seems to talk about in order to counter one of her moves. In her second phase, she has a projectile which homes onto you and deals significant damage and poison buildup, which is usually dealt with by just outrunning it and letting it time out. However, using a projectile gift like Bloodshot and shooting through it will destroy the orb, while also be able to be used to hit the boss, so holding on to at least 1 or 2 echo at a time is very important. Between all these attempts I did fighting her, I was also able to do a few other things, like getting the Mercury blood code from Coco, RV masteries from the depth, levels for my equipment, and mastering a few more gifts. At this point, I literally did everything before completing the boss because it pissed me off so much. But in total, it took me 30 attempts to beat this boss, and it really started to set in how much worse this run was gonna get. At this point, I already looked at all the blood codes I would get later in this game, and not much of them would be doing much more damage than I already do. But the health bars of these bosses really do not get much smaller than they already are now, and with the butterfly taking 7 minutes to beat, and the more time I spend in this fight, the more room for error there is, and along with them not hitting much softer, my level 1 handicap really is showing its weakness right now. But the next area we go to is the Dried Up Trench, and honestly, it was a really boring run straight to the boss. So after getting the homie's blood code from Davis, we went straight into the fight with the insatiable Despot. This fight was completely different than the Butterfly, where compared to the agile and quick Butterfly, the Despot was slow and easy to dodge. He does have one annoying move in his first phase, which is growing big glowing crystals from the ground, and although it is very easy to dodge and avoid them, the reason why they're annoying is that if left too long, they will summon adds which move very fast and swing just as fast. These crystals could be destroyed, but with how little damage my light attacks did with my pipe, I had to use a combination of Bloodshot and melee attacks to make back the echo I used with my Bloodshots. However, this did make it a bit dangerous as my vision would be obstructed by the crystals, which the Despot could use to walk up and smack me. Getting through the first phase would make it a lot easier, as he would lose his ability to summon the crystals and have a slow attack pattern with his bigger weapon. And after 9 attempts, he falls to my mediocre damage. A boss fight I was very willing to accept after the trouble I had with the Butterfly. Picking up the Darkseeker blood code from the fight and leveling up my weapons a little bit more, I went back to the missile I got like 2 bosses ago. If you remember, I got this missile right before the Butterfly fight, and it's now time to go back, which will lead us straight to the Howling Pits. This area is a bit annoying to traverse through. It keeps slowing you and making you lose more stamina as it lowers your dodge rating when you're going through the deeper waters. But after a few minutes of wading through the sewer waters, we made it to the next boss, the Invading Executioner. Being one of the more notorious bosses in this game, she has attacks which slow you and moves at the speed of light, which is not very fun. in addition to having an AoE move, which is unpredictable to dodge and reaches around 3/4 of the arena. However, compared to when I fought Despot, I had a few more useful gifts, picking up some from the depths, and especially one from Darkseeker. Venom Trap. Venom Trap was probably one of the best gifts I had to this point. The debuff Venom does a % max HP drain, so for bosses which are vulnerable to this, it does a lot more damage I could do with my pipe or even my gifts, draining 50% of the boss's HP over 30 seconds. Meaning, in addition to the pipe damage and my bloodshot damage, I would only proc Venom 3 or 4 times per boss that is vulnerable to Venom. This boss would not be much easier with Venom however. With stamina management, eco management, and using Venom Trap quick enough so that there's a net gain in Venom buildup, it makes it very difficult to finish the boss without making any mistakes. At this point, there's not really anything else much I could do, except for maybe one depths, which gave me an RV which would not help very much. I would keep dying to her long range moves, her dash attack, or just get smacked for not timing Venom Trap well enough to dodge her moves. So after a while and some calculations, I changed my Blood Veil to a gift transformation. Transformations are a way to alter how your weapons or Blood Veils work, which can be fire, frost, lightning, or in this case, gift transformations, which for weapons, it doesn't really do anything. But for Blood Veils, it changes the light and dark gift scaling, which causes gifts to do more damage or buffs, depending on if it's a dark or light gift. The amount of calculations I did for this though was not fun, as this transformation increases the base damage but removes scaling damage. Scaling damage is based on the level and the willpower or mind stat for dark and light gifts respectively. And from looking at a different file and finding the slopes of the changes based on the changes in the willpower and the mind, and then seeing how it compares to a level 1 account, I found that it is better at every stat level to have the flat increase rather than having the scaling damage that I would have even at S-Rank, Mind, and Willpower. This transformation change increased it from 329 damage to only 383 damage, a 54 damage increase, but the slight damage increases do add up. And after 34 attempts, the dancer falls, 3 attempts after I transformed the veil. For my efforts, I was given the ability to have Mia as a partner, or more importantly, her Chrome, which lets me do the Devour transform on my pipe, which increases how much Ichor it drains per hit. Finally, I'm in Anor. That joke has probably been made too many times. Anyways, I'm in the Cathedral, which was a nightmare the first time I went through this. But now that I've played it like 3 times, I ran through it, picking up the region activation factor, pulling the level, picking up the region activation, level, and boss. Oh wait, we're already here. The Argent Wolf Berserker is actually a very straightforward boss, not being able to be venomed, but being one of the only bosses that can be backstabbed. Because of this, the main way to damage him is very straightforward. Backstab him, then Bloodshot and Sonic Arrow him, then repeat that like 7 more times. And on the 4th try, he gets backstabbed to death. Here, I am given a Vestige to pick up, which does not give me a memory to walk through, but gives me my own memory to fight through. Going through my own memory was a bit like a maze, but given that I've already ran through it a few times, it wasn't too bad. And after a few runs, I was able to reach the boss, the Queen's Knight. He is the most similar to any traditional Dark Souls boss. Sword and shield, moves really fast, hits really hard.
I don't know. I doubt it. Okay, this is gonna take a Shit, but it's not a dead. I'm dead. I fucking hate this.
I spent so long on this boss, 3 different days of streaming to do it, and I spent hours per day trying to do it. I had to learn his patterns, how to best manipulate his AI to do the same moves, and how to react to every move. But if I messed up once during this fight, it was really likely I was gonna get 1 shot or 2 shot. Every time I would try a new place to walk in from the very beginning, and when I think I'm getting it consistent, he does something completely different. It was so fucking painful. I would try to do my best whittling down his HP with my weak attacks, but all my progress would be taken after 1 or 2 hits. I did eventually learn almost all of his moves, when I need to dodge and what every move's wind up look like, but some dodges were just not consistent. Inconsistent dodges are fine in normal gameplay, as you can just heal afterwards, but in this playthrough, if it's inconsistent, having dodged the move 20 times, it is likely I'll mess up once and get one shot. But I did find a new technique: parrying. Parrying is quite a simple concept. Block the move at the right time and you'll stagger the boss. But there's an additional benefit to parrying in Code Vein. It increases your echo amount and drains, just like backstabs. With more echo and drain early, it allows me to use more bloodshots and venom traps without needing to drain echo in the later phases of the fight. Finally, after a whole 226 attempts, 7 whole fucking hours, the final attempt was 5 minutes and took 10 parries. Not even a single venom trap. The amount of stress, pain, and heartbeat I had during this run, I would never want to experience it again. But considering that I'm only halfway through the run at this point, it is really likely I'm going to have to experience something like this again. For the amount of parries and the pain and suffering I had to go through for the Queen's Knight, I was rewarded with learning why we are in fact the anime protagonist, and the Queenslayer Blood Code, which is probably the best code in a normal run because of its high strength and dex stats. The next half of the run though is going to be really painful, and I'm still running it. So if you want to catch it live, you can watch me on Twitch, or subscribe so that you'll know when the next part is out. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.